The roar of the crowd should have felt like joy. Instead, it felt like a funeral for the version of me that still believed family meant something. When they called my name Hailey Monroe, Master of Data Analytics, the sound echoed across the University of Texas Stadium like an announcement into a void. All around me, cameras flashed, mothers cried, fathers waved flowers. The reserved-for-family row in front of me gleamed under the fluorescent lights, its metal seats empty, reflecting the sunlight like little mirrors reminding me of absence. I stood there, cap slightly crooked, forcing a smile that felt more like a mask. The photographer counted down. 3, 2, 1. Click. A photo of a woman pretending she wasn't alone. Afterward, people hugged, exchanged flowers, posed with their parents. I lingered near the fountain, pretending to scroll through my phone. My classmate Megan found me, her parents wrapping their arms around her like she was a prize they'd been waiting to collect. She asked, "Where's your family?" "Traffic." I said, "Yeah, probably stuck on I-35. The lie slid out smooth, practiced. The kind that fills silence when you've already stopped expecting truth. By the time I reached the parking lot, the air smelled like barbecue and car exhaust. Families loaded up balloons, laughter echoing. I sat in my beat-up silver Civic, the seat warm from the Texas Sunday. For one stupid second, I imagined my mom's car pulling up Brenda, stepping out in her big sunglasses, my dad holding a bouquet, my sister Kylie filming the whole thing for TikTok. But the vision faded like heat mirage on asphalt. I shouldn't have been surprised. They'd missed my college graduation too. Back then, Mom said Kylie had cheer practice, and Dad just texted a thumbs up. I'd told myself it didn't matter, that success was its own reward. But sitting there in the parking lot, diploma in my lap, I realized something cruel. I had spent my whole life chasing applause from people who'd never even bought a ticket to my show. 3 days later, my phone buzzed. "Mom, need $2,000 for Kylie's Sweet 16. You can transfer by Friday. Thanks. Love you." No, congrats. No, we're proud of you. Just another invoice disguised as affection. I stared at the screen for a long time, long enough for the phone to dim and go black. Then I reopened my banking app, typed in $1, and added a note. "Congrats." I hit send. The little NID cent glowed back at me like a flicker of rebellion. That night, I pulled the spare key from the drawer, the one Mom insisted on keeping for emergencies, and dropped it into the trash. The metal clink echoed in the quiet apartment, small but final. For the first time in years, I locked my door, sat on my couch, and let the silence fill the room. It wasn't empty. It was mine. But peace doesn't last long when someone's addicted to your compliance. And I didn't know it yet, but the next knock on that door wouldn't be love. It would be the law. I grew up in a house where love was earned like credit points, and where I was always a few payments behind. Our home sat on the edge of Round Rock, Texas, red brick, 2 stories, a white fence that looked perfect enough to hide everything that wasn't. Mom, Brenda Monroe, worked part-time at a dentist's office, but carried herself like she owned the building. Dad, Rick, quiet, loyal, a man who'd rather fix a broken sink than face a broken truth. And then there was Kylie, 5 years younger, our family's golden child. Kylie sparkled literally. Sequin dresses, cheer trophies, 1,000 selfies. Mom called her my sunshine. Me? I was the storm that paid the electric bill. When I was 16, I worked the morning shift at Starbucks before school, learning to fake cheerfulness before caffeine even hit my bloodstream. I'd slide my tips into an envelope, and Mom would text, "Thanks, honey. Kylie's field trip to San Antonio." Or, "She needs new shoes for nationals." I didn't argue. Back then, family helps. Family sounded noble. Now it just sounds like code for "you owe us." After graduation, I moved to Austin for grad school scholarships, side jobs, long nights coding data models. Every success felt like proof that maybe this time, Mom would see me as more than a wallet. But old habits die harder than hope. Sometimes, I'd call home just to check in, and Mom would pivot the conversation faster than a political debate. "Are you eating well, Hailey? You know your sister needs braces, right?" I'd bite my tongue, change the topic, send the money. Every single time. So when that post-graduation text came, the one demanding $2,000, I wasn't shocked by the amount. I was shocked by my reaction. I felt nothing but tired, like a machine that finally overheated and refused to start again. That night, I replayed our last conversation in my head. Sweetie, Mom had said months before, "We're family. What's mine is yours." But she never meant it both ways. I realized then our family wasn't built on love. It was an equation. Hailey's effort, mas Hailey's guilt, igual a everyone else's comfort. And I was done solving for X. I changed my number, muted her calls, and for the first time in years, I slept through the night. But peace in my world had a 2-week lifespan. One quiet Tuesday morning, someone knocked on my door hard, rhythmic, official. I thought maybe it was the landlord or a delivery. When I opened the peephole, I didn't see flowers or family. I saw 2 Austin PD officers, and in that moment, I realized my mother hadn't just stopped loving me. She'd started building a case against me. The knock came again, firm, measured, official. I froze halfway through making coffee. No one ever knocked like that unless something was wrong. When I peeked through the peephole, 2 Austin police officers stood outside my apartment. A man and a woman, both in uniform, both calm, both carrying the kind of authority that makes your pulse quicken even when you've done nothing wrong. I cracked the door open just an inch. "Miss Monroe?" the male officer asked. "Yes?" "I'm Officer Daniels. We received a call from your mother, Brenda Monroe. She's worried about your safety. Said you've been acting erratically, changing locks, not answering calls." For a moment, I thought he was joking, but he wasn't smiling. I let out a dry laugh. "So she called the police because I installed a new lock?" The female officer shifted slightly, her expression soft. "Sometimes families get concerned when communication breaks down." I stepped aside. "You're welcome to take a look." They walked in. The place was spotless, coffee mug on the counter, laptop open to my job application, diploma framed on the wall, a candle burning softly. I could tell the male officer noticed it too, how normal everything looked. He asked gently, "Do you have any thoughts of harming yourself or others?" I met his eyes. "No, I just don't want people walking in and taking pieces of my peace anymore." He nodded slowly, almost approvingly. Then he said something I'll never forget. "Boundaries scare the people who benefit from your lack of them." He handed me a card. "If your mother calls again, reference this visit. We'll file it as no concern." When they left, I closed the door and leaned against it, trembling not with fear, but fury. My mother hadn't called because she was worried. She'd called because she'd lost control. For years, she'd guilted me with phrases like, "family first" and "don't be selfish." But changing that lock was my first act of rebellion, and she treated it like a crime. I stared at the new deadbolt, shiny, solid, defiant, and whispered to myself, "You're not breaking in again." But I underestimated her, because the next invasion wouldn't come through my front door. It would come through my credit score. The next morning, Austin was quiet, that rare hush before the heat takes over. Sunlight spilled through my blinds, catching on the silver lock I'd installed just a week ago. It gleamed like a medal, a reminder that peace, however small, could be earned. I brewed coffee, opened my laptop, ready to lose myself in job applications. Then I made the mistake of checking my email. Notice of new credit inquiry. Capital 1. A second one followed. Minutes apart, discover. My stomach tightened. I hadn't applied for any cards. I barely even used the one I had. Still, I told myself maybe it was an error, a glitch in the system. But when I opened my credit report, that tiny lie fell apart. 2 new accounts, both approved. Both opened using my social security number but under my parents' address in Round Rock. I felt my hands go cold. Scrolling through the transactions felt like watching someone rob me in slow motion. Lone Star Events, Glam Studio ATX, Cherry Blossom Catering. The same names Mom had mentioned when bragging about Kylie's upcoming Sweet 16. The text she sent after graduation flashed back in my mind like a warning I hadn't read properly. Need $2,000 for Kylie's Sweet 16. She hadn't been asking for help. She'd been testing the door to see if I'd notice when she used my name to open it herself. I grabbed my phone and called the number listed on the Capital One statement. "This is Hailey Monroe," I said, voice shaking but steady. "I need to report identity theft." The representative's tone softened after verifying my info. Miss Monroe, this account was opened in person at our Round Rock branch last month. The co-applicant's name is Brenda Monroe. For a moment, everything around me, the hum of the fridge, the ticking clock, went silent. My mother hadn't just taken my money this time. She'd taken me. I hung up, staring at my reflection in the black screen of my laptop, the same face she'd used to get credit, buy balloons, book DJs. I opened my phone's voice recorder. Texas was a one-party consent state. I'd Googled it 3 times to be sure. If Mom wanted to turn this into a story of crazy, ungrateful daughter, I was done playing that role. I hit record and dialed. She answered on the 3rd ring, her voice clipped, irritated. "So, you're alive?" "Yeah, Mom," I said quietly. "And I know what you did." Her pause was sharp, slicing through the line. "Excuse me?" I took a breath, every word deliberate. "You opened 2 credit cards in my name, both using your address. Do you want to explain that?" Her laugh was brittle, rehearsed. "Oh, that. I was helping you, sweetheart. Building your credit while paying for Kylie's party. You should be grateful." Grateful," I repeated, tasting the word like rust. "You forged my signature." She scoffed. "Don't be dramatic. What's yours is ours. You're part of this family, remember?" I looked at the lock on my door, the one I'd installed myself, and said softly, "Not anymore." Then I pressed save on the recording and named the file Evidence01. But I wasn't done, because exposing the truth in private wasn't enough. This time, I was going to make her face it in public. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table, laptop glowing like an interrogation lamp, replaying every line of that call, her laughter, her audacity, the way she said, "What's yours is ours." That line had been her favorite my whole life. When I was 10, it meant my Halloween candy. At 16, it meant my paycheck. At 27, it meant my identity. By morning, the shock had hardened into something sharper resolve. I called Capital One again and asked them to send me every document tied to the fraudulent account. The woman on the phone hesitated. "It'll take a few hours, Miss Monroe, but we'll email copies once they're cleared for release." 3 hours later, the files arrived. There it was, my mother's handwriting on the application, shaky but familiar. Her phone number, her driver's license scan, my social security number, my name. Everything she needed, she'd stolen years ago, tucked inside the old FAFSA forms I'd left in the family filing cabinet. It wasn't just theft, it was premeditated. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. Then I printed every page, each one heavier than the last, until I had a neat stack of Betrayal right in front of me. And for once, I didn't cry. I organized it into a folder, labeled it Fraud Monroe. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I drove back to Round Rock. The same red brick house, the same white fence. But this time, I didn't park in the driveway. I parked across the street and watched. Kylie's car pink decals, vanity plate Kai Babe, a banner on the porch, Sweet 16 this Saturday. The audacity stung. I walked to the nearest branch of Capital One, 2 blocks away, the same one listed on the document. Inside, the air was cold, clinical, humming with printers and polite apologies. I met with the fraud investigator, a woman named Lauren. She had the steady kind of voice that made you feel seen without pity. She glanced at my folder, then back at me. "Miss Monroe, I have to say, most people don't gather evidence this cleanly." I shrugged. "When your family's gaslighting is this consistent, you learn to be your own detective." She smiled faintly. "We'll open a formal fraud case. You'll get a reference number today. We'll also notify law enforcement if needed." "Good," I said, standing. "Because I'm done being the victim." On the drive home, the Austin skyline shimmered under the afternoon haze. I should have felt free, but I didn't. My chest felt tight, like a string pulled too far, because I knew what would come next. Mom wouldn't apologize. She'd deny, manipulate, and twist until I looked like the villain. And I needed a way to end this, not with screaming, not with begging, but with something louder. The truth, on record and in daylight. I just didn't know yet that daylight would come in the unlikeliest place, a Denny's booth, under flickering fluorescent lights, with the smell of burnt coffee and betrayal hanging in the air. The sun had just started to sink when I parked outside the Denny's off Highway 79, that strange in-between hour when the sky turns honey orange and everything feels like it's holding its breath. I chose this place on purpose. Public, neutral, impossible to shout in. They arrived 15 minutes late. Mom first, in oversized sunglasses and a floral dress that screamed innocence on sale. Dad trailed behind her, smaller somehow, like the air had leaked out of him over the years. Hailey came last, scrolling through her phone, barely glancing up. Her hair glittered under the fluorescent sign. I was already in the booth, black coffee cooling in front of me. When they slid in across the table, Mom smiled that brittle, performative smile. "Hailey, sweetheart, really? Making us drive all the way here?" "We're not eating," I said. "We're talking." The waitress came, poured coffee for everyone, and left us in a fog of burnt beans and tension. I pulled a brown folder from my tote bag and laid it between us. 2 credit cards, I said. Both opened under my name, both used for Kylie's party. Mom's hand hovered over her cup. "Oh, that," she said, waving like she was brushing off dust. "Honey, it was for your own good. You need credit history." I was helping. Helping? My voice cracked into something sharper. "You forged my signature, used my SSN, and booked a DJ in my name." Kylie finally looked up from her phone. "Mom said you agreed." "I didn't," I snapped. "That silver dress you wore, you danced in it on my credit." Her lips parted, but no sound came. Dad cleared his throat. "Sweetheart, your mom she got carried away. Let's not make this ugly. We can fix it privately." I slid the folder closer to them. "You can't fix it privately. The bank already knows. There's a fraud report. You'll be hearing from them." Mom's face went pale beneath her foundation. "You did what?" "I reported it. The investigation's open." For a second, no one spoke. Even the jukebox in the corner seemed to go silent. Then Mom leaned forward, voice low, trembling with rage. "You're destroying this family over a misunderstanding." I laughed sharp, bitter, final. "No, Mom. You destroyed it the moment you decided my name was worth more than my love." I stood, dropped cash for the coffee on the table. "You'll get your letters soon." Hailey whispered, "Hailey, wait." But I didn't. I pushed open the glass door and stepped into the cool Texas night. The wind smelled like rain. In the distance, lightning flickered over the horizon. Faint, warning, beautiful. As I sat in my car, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. I didn't look like the girl who'd begged for approval. I looked like the woman who'd finally stopped apologizing. But the storm wasn't over yet. It was just about to arrive, and this time, the thunder would come during Kylie's birthday party. By Saturday evening, the Texas sky glowed with that strange violet before a storm. From my apartment balcony, I could see lightning faintly pulsing somewhere over downtown Austin, like the city itself was holding its breath. I wasn't invited to the party, not officially, anyway. But I didn't need an invitation. I already knew what was coming. Mom had gone all out for Kylie's Sweet 16. I'd seen snippets online photos tagged by her friends before she locked her account. The event hall in Round Rock had been transformed into a teenage fantasy. Balloon arches, neon signs that said "Born to Shine," glitter walls, a 3-tier cake shaped like a crown, all financed with the same stolen credit she swore was for my own good. I made tea, sat by the window, and waited. Not for revenge, at least, that's what I told myself, but for accountability. There's a difference. At 8:42 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. "Miss Monroe?" a woman's voice asked. "This is Lauren Stein, legal representative for Capital One's fraud department. I wanted to inform you that our compliance team has coordinated with local law enforcement to verify transactions tied to your fraud report. The event is currently under review at Lone Star Banquet Hall." My throat tightened. "You're sending police?" "Yes, ma'am. Standard verification procedure. You're not required to attend, but we'll be documenting in person." I hung up slowly, heart pounding like a bass drum. Outside, thunder rolled across the hills. 25 minutes later, my phone buzzed again this time. A text. "Kylie, are you insane?" Another followed, seconds later. "Kylie, the cops just showed up. The DJ stopped. Everyone's staring. Mom's losing it." Then a third. "Kylie, They're saying your name. What did you do? I set the phone down, exhaled. At the banquet hall, the air conditioning hummed over silence as two uniformed officers walked in, calm but commanding. A woman from the bank followed, holding a thick folder. "Good evening," one of the officers began, voice even. "We're here to verify a report of credit misuse associated with this event. The charges were made using an account under the name Hailey Monroe." Gasps rippled through the room. Phones came up. Cameras flashed. Mom froze near the dessert table, her wine glass hand trembling. "There must be a mistake," she said, voice cracking just enough to sound rehearsed. The banker opened the folder. "Primary applicant, Brenda Monroe. Co-signer, unauthorized. These transactions total $9,412.38. Someone whispered, "Isn't that her daughter's name?" Kylie stood under the balloon arch, mascara streaking, whispering, "Mom, what did you do?" Mom's reply was barely a breath. "She set me up." The officer didn't argue. "No one's being arrested tonight, ma'am. This is just for documentation. You'll receive contact from the fraud department Monday morning." Oh. Flashes went off again. Half the room filmed, the other half pretended not to watch. By the time Mom stepped outside, rain had started falling gentle, relentless, almost forgiving. The banner that read "Born to Shine" sagged under the weight of water, colors bleeding into the pavement. Back in my apartment, I stood at my own window, mug of tea warming my hands, and watched the storm roll in. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just listened to the thunder, the rain, the echo of justice. For years, silence had felt like punishment. But that night, it sounded a lot like freedom. Still, I knew this wasn't the end. Not yet. Because every storm leaves wreckage behind, and the real cleanup was about to begin. By Monday morning, the storm had cleared, but its echo lingered in whispers. You can't hide gossip in a town like Round Rock. It travels faster than lightning and lasts twice as long. The first call came from Capital One. The fraud investigation was closed. "Primary applicant, Brenda Monroe," the agent read aloud, "has acknowledged unauthorized use and agreed to repay the full balance." Just like that one sentence to summarize a lifetime of deceit. No apology, no explanation, just a quiet admission buried in legal paperwork. Within a week, the ripples spread. At church, Mom's friends stopped sitting with her. At Dad's office, someone slipped a copy of the local news brief onto his desk. Mother accused of identity fraud during teen's party. He was asked to take a leave of absence for bringing personal distractions to work. As for Kylie, she went dark online. Her influencer, sponsorships, hair extensions, clothing boutiques, local pageants, all gone overnight. I didn't celebrate it, but I won't lie. A part of me finally exhaled. For the first time, I didn't have to prove I wasn't crazy. The evidence spoke louder than my silence ever could. My inbox filled with follow-ups, case documents, credit freeze confirmations, fraud alerts. Each message was another thread cut from the web she'd built around me. That Friday, I printed everything Capital One's final report, the fraud closure letter, the locksmith receipt, and pinned them side by side on my wall next to my framed diploma. Together, they told my whole story. Proof of effort, proof of protection, proof of freedom. But freedom isn't the same as peace. Some nights, I'd still wake up thinking I heard my old ringtone Mom's number flashing across the screen. Sometimes, I'd even reach for it before remembering she didn't have this new number anymore. Then came the email. Short, cold, familiar. Subject, "You win." Body, "Hope you're happy." No greeting, no name, no punctuation, just that. I stared at it for a long time. Then, for the first time in years, I hit reply. "Yes," I wrote. "I finally am." I didn't send it to hurt her. I sent it because it was true. As I closed my laptop, a soft breeze came through the open window. Somewhere outside, kids laughed. A neighbor's dog barked. The world just went on. But deep down, I knew something had shifted forever. Because sometimes, justice doesn't come with handcuffs or headlines. It comes quietly, with boundaries. And I was about to learn that the quiet after the storm could be even more powerful than the thunder itself. 6 months later, the world felt different, lighter, slower. like I'd finally stepped out of someone else's movie. Autumn had rolled over Austin, painting the sidewalks gold. My new office at Nova Data Labs overlooked Lady Bird Lake, and every morning, the sunrise poured through glass windows like forgiveness. My desk was cluttered with things that actually belonged to me, sticky notes. A chipped mug that said, "Do not disturb, I'm debugging," and a framed photo of my grad ceremony, this time cropped so you couldn't see the empty seats behind me. On the wall above my monitor hung 3 things: my diploma proof of how far I'd climbed, the bank's fraud closure letter proof that truth eventually wins, and the old lock I'd replaced proof that sometimes you have to close a door to open your life. I'd stopped checking social media months ago. Still, occasionally, someone from Round Rock would message me, whispering updates about my family. Mom rarely left the house. Dad worked part-time at a hardware store. Kylie had moved out and started waitressing in San Marcos, trying to make it on her own. Maybe, in a strange way, that was justice too. One chilly Friday evening, as I packed up to leave the office, an email pinged unknown address, but the subject line made my heart stop. From Mom. I clicked. "Hailey, I know you hate me. I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know I never meant to hurt you. I just didn't know how to stop needing you." I read it 3 times, waiting for anger to rise. It didn't, because the truth was, I didn't hate her anymore. I'd just outgrown the version of myself who needed her approval to feel whole. So I replied simply, "I don't hate you. I just love myself more now." Then I hit send and closed my laptop. That night, I sat on my balcony with a cup of tea, the city humming below me. The sound of traffic, laughter, and distant music filled the air life going on, beautifully indifferent. And as the wind carried the faint echo of a thunderstorm somewhere far off, I realized something profound. Silence wasn't loneliness anymore. It was peace. Because real freedom isn't about getting revenge. It's about reclaiming your story and finally choosing yourself. If you've ever had to set a boundary just to breathe again, you're not alone. Family doesn't mean ownership. Forgiveness starts with letting go. And no one, not even blood, has the right to control your peace.